All right, we're live. Welcome back, everybody, to Unconventional Asians, where we interview guests who are authentic and unapologetic about themselves to live their authentic life. And today we have Tou Ger Lee with us, and he's a fulfillment coach that helps overachievers to find their dreams and contribute back to the world. And so we're so glad today to have you here, too.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think of myself as an unconventional Asian. And growing up, being an unconventional Asian, you're kind of always the only one. So it's nice to
Right.
meet a bunch of other ones as well.
Exactly. We are not alone. There's a lot of us out there.
Exactly, yes. So thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to actually share your story as well a little bit if you want to talk about like how you felt like you're an unconventional Asian. Like I just did a clubhouse conversation last week, and there were just a lot of people feeling like they're Asian, but they're like not Asian enough. You know what I mean? And so I know your background as well, because it's quite unique in the Asian community. So do you want to share a little bit about yourself so the audience can get to know you?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit, and I'll be completely honest, and this might just be me freestyling off the top here.
Yeah, I know.
Had,
This is like unexpected. I'm like,
well,
hey.
well, I've had I swear, like maybe over 20 calls this week where I just had to introduce myself over to people. And so like your own story gets a little old after you repeat it so many times, right? So I kind of want to change it up a little bit. Not that the old story is not valid, but it's just sometimes I want to talk about something slightly different. And in this context, I wanted to share something new, I guess. Growing up, so actually what happened, and I feel like this is what set me on the path of being an unconventional Asian. When I was like 4 or 5, my dad, he used to be a drunk, and this was before he became like a pastor and everything. He was like a drunk, and
Wow.
I remember he was at my neighbor's house, who happened to be also my cousins, and my mom and I went to get him one day. Just because he was like drinking and he was drunk, and I don't remember exactly what happened after that. But the next memory I have in my head is we're sitting on like a broken down swing set like in my backyard, and my mom's just sitting on the broken down swing set crying, and I'm standing there holding her hand. And I don't know what happened. Like I don't remember. I just remember realizing like, wow, like something's wrong. And for the first time in my life, I realized like the world wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. And what that taught me in that moment, my story I made about it was all Hmong people, because I'm Hmong American, all Hmong people are, really quickly, do you swear on this? Because I haven't. Okay.
Go for it. Authentic,
okay.
Authenticity.
Yeah. I was already conscious of it. Yeah, I was like, in that moment, I made in my head, the story was all Hmong people are assholes. And I'm never going to be like that. And so I grew up my whole life. I always wondered why I was so like rebellious. Like we would go to family or like gatherings where a bunch of your relatives and the community would show up. And I didn't care about anybody or what anyone thought of me. And I think it's like really, in the Asian culture, it's really about saving face. Like, oh, be really nice to this person because they're your like uncles, moms, blah, 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 right? And like to me, I was like, I don't care who you are. Why am I gonna I literally would say that to their face.
Wow.
And I always wondered why. Like I always just thought I was a rebel, but really, after doing a lot of work, I realized it all came from a place of like Asian people or Hmong people are like terrible people, and I don't want to be like that, and I'm better than that. And so honestly, a lot of mine came from ego. It came from hurt, but it also came from ego of thinking that I was better. And it wasn't until I checked myself that I really was able to go back and like fully accept the culture and the heritage and my identity as an Asian person. So that's how I kind of started down that route of being unconventional. Some of the things that I did, I guess you could say, in my career was I dropped out of college at 19. 2 weeks into college, I dropped out. And I moved out to Chicago, became a professional dancer, which is something that's definitely, And fortunately now it's more accepted, right?
Right.
But back in 2010, even, it wasn't really a thing. So dropped out of college, became a professional dancer. From there, whole story happened. My dad got sick, and I wanted to be closer to my family, so I left LA. So I moved out to LA, and then I left LA to come back to the Midwest to be closer to my family. And then from there, dropped dance, became a coach, which is completely flip side. Not a lot of people do that. So yeah, in many ways, I think I'm pretty unconventional. I would like to think that I've taken an unconventional path. And there's a lot of good things in that because I feel like I've been able to do certain things where my Asianness didn't limit me.
Yes.
And at the same time, the struggle in it was a lack of identity, right? The struggle in it has been, well, I don't fit in there, but I'm also not fully this. So where do I belong? So it's been a fun journey, I guess you could say. Fun, challenging, exciting, weird journey. But here we are now.
Yeah, that's amazing. And would you say that's something that's triggering you to wanting to be a coach as well, kind of helping other people to find their purpose and their identity?
Yeah, it's a huge thing. So what actually helped me, or what motivated me to become a coach, I'm sure is a big part of the story, because not knowing or not wanting to be Asian, but being Asian anyways, like you struggle with the identity, right? And then because you struggle with the identity, you kind of naturally have like insecurities and self-doubt, and for my whole career as a dancer, I realized I was dealing with a lot of doubt, and I thought it was just because I didn't think I was good enough, and or maybe I thought I was too much and I needed to calm down a little. And really, all of that's true in a way, right? But at the root of it was really a sense of, I don't know who I am, and therefore I'm not secure in showing that. And so here I am trying really hard to show who I am through dance, but not even knowing what it is that I'm trying to express or put out. Only considering what it is that other people might want from me, or what I think it should look like. And so that created a lot of insecurity in myself. And after, and I did a lot of work mainly to, find the purpose, to transform myself. And fortunately, the work I did was ontology. So ontology being the study and philosophy of being and existence. And that wasn't something I was aware of. I really, I guess, luckily just kind of fell into it, that exact line of work. And really got to work on my identity around being, again, an Asian man, and what does that mean to me? And outside of that, who am I?
Yeah.
And that's what really helped me build the confidence and build the, I guess what you could almost say, grit to be able to be where I am today. And that's kind of what I'm supporting a lot of people to do now, supporting you to own your identity so that, supporting you to own your identity so that you can show up as the best version of yourself. Without questioning it, am I good enough? Am I not good enough? Am I whatever enough? Just like, I'm secure, this is who I am, and this is what's showing up.
Right.
And there's so much power in that. It's so free.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect segue into today's live coaching as well, because I think the best coaches in the world are the ones who have been through it themselves, to have walked the talk, right? That have overcome the same struggles, so they are empathetic to their clients' needs. So today, I think what you were talking about in regards to feeling not good enough, sometimes it's kind of the foundational problem of why we procrastinate, because I think today's topic is about procrastination and then turning that into productivity. And it's kind of having that fear behind, like, oh, if I show my work to the world and it's not perfect enough, that imposter syndrome, then I'd rather not do anything about it. Then let me just do something else instead to feel more grounded in the moment, and just constantly running away from the thing that I'm going for. So would absolutely love, thank you so much for sharing that story, because I think it's relevant to so many people in this group. And you might be able to be your spokesperson as well, because it's really about identity, really, for so really, that was such an amazing story, and good job for overcoming all of that, because it takes a lot of work. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure to share that.
Oh, yeah. So I guess we'll just kind of segue into the live coaching as well, because that's what you do and that's what you do best. And how we met was you were offering like one-on-one coaching session, just like on Facebook and advertising it, which was so cool. And I had such a great time, and I definitely want to share your gift to the world, and that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess maybe I'll just kind of like preface like what I'm working on in terms of like what my fears are. So what I said before, it's pretty much just like feeling pressure that I needed to like say monetize this community, and it's who am I to do this, because I had such a block with being a speaker. That stems from like my trauma from my ex-husband. He would say like, you are like, think before you speak. It's like you should say in a more coherent way, things like that. But he's not a bad person at all. I just want to say that. But I think that really solidifies like, oh, I'm not a good speaker at all in speaking my truth and plus I'm also an immigrant. So English is my second language. So I feel like that's another block for me. So, but then I have like this burning desire to build this community. So I'm kind of like doing this dance back and forth, like, okay, I'll put out content, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm not good enough. It's like, so I just go back and forth with it. And so that's kind of like a reason why I was procrastinating. And also it's just an overwhelming amount of work and just not sure how I should proceed really. Because you know how in the social media world, you do Facebook, YouTube, like anything now, Clubhouse, and just everything and everything. To a point, it's just like I'm only one person and I can only do so much. So it was to a point where I was just like, forget it. I'm going to just go to a minimum, which is the one weekly Facebook Live a week. But I felt so guilty for not fulfilling all the tasks that I was supposed to do, and just really beating myself up for the past few months. So here we are today. How can we get out of that?
Got it. Yeah. So, and I'm just gonna kind of repeat what you said in my own words to make sure that I'm fully understanding, right? And I know we've had this conversation before offline as well. So what is you have a lot going on, and there's a lot of limiting beliefs that hold you back from doing a lot of the things that you want to do. Right? There's a lot of limiting beliefs, perhaps from your old relationship around being an immigrant, having English be your second language, and that's all getting in your way of pursuing and doing the things that you really want to be doing out there in the world, creating the difference you want to be creating, and therefore procrastination happens because of that fear. And not only that, but it's also like you start to minimize your work because it feels overwhelming. So then it's like, screw it, I'm just going to do one episode a week and that's it. Is that correct so far? Just wanted
100% bang on.
Okay, just want to make sure that I'm not putting my own interpretation on it.
Oh, that was great.
Got it. Cool. So that being said, what would you like to leave this conversation with?
Just feeling more motivated, I guess, to work, and taking away maybe some tools that I can use that are like actionable, so that I can start working towards being more productive.
Okay, so being more motivated to work, so developing some tools, so that you can be more productive. Got it. And I know in our last conversation, and you can share as much of it as you want or whatnot, right? It's your story, so I'm not going to share it live here for you.
But hey, that's what I do. I like to just be more and more.
But yeah, like so I know last conversation we had, we really got into the world of like the three different phases of coaching. For anyone who's listening out there who maybe don't know about this yet, there's three different levels of coaching. There's level 1, there's level 2, and level 3, right? Level 1 is more so, let's work on the practical problem. So for example, around relationships, right? If you're having a fight with your partner, as a coach, I would come in and say, okay, let's talk about this exact fight and figure out what's going on there, right? Maybe if anything, I say, let's figure out what's going on in this relationship, right, with you and your partner. As a level 2 coach, I might come in and say, you know what, let's figure out what your relationships are in general. How's your relationship with your siblings, your parents, you know, and how does that affect your relationship with your partner? How are your relationships at work, and how does that affect your relationship with your partner, right? So then it becomes about relationships overall. So that's kind of level 2. Now, level 3 is where it gets a lot deeper, and it's really about, you know, what is it about you that's having your life show up this way? So perhaps the issue isn't even about the arguments that you're having with your partner. The issue is that you have a belief in your life, a story that I don't know, I'm not good enough. Let's just say a generic one, right? Like you have a belief that I'm not good enough, and therefore, when your partner doesn't take out the garbage, it's like, well, I'm not good enough, and that's why you don't care to take out the garbage for me, and whatever, right? Like all these stories come up, and it's ridiculous. And then it's one of those things where if you can shift that story at a level 3, you once the tide rises, all the boats rise with it, right? And so last conversation we had was kind of we started out like, I think it was like a level 2, and then we danced around and jumped to level 1 and level 3, and we kind of uncovered a lot of stuff there. Would you mind sharing what the level 3 thing that we uncovered was again?
Yeah, sure. It's something that was very deep seated within me. I had this need to be perfect in order to deserve love. And it was something very interesting that happened last time when you separated it into 2 parts. So I thought it was just one limiting belief. In fact, it was actually 2 different things. So you were saying how I don't deserve love. It's the core of it. And I need to be perfect. It's just more like the action that I need to do to fulfill what the I don't deserve love part. So that was fascinating to just understanding that's 2 different separate things to work on, because otherwise that it becomes very confusing. It's like having 2 things, like trying to solve 2 things at once. So I think like I don't deserve love, the self-love piece is really what I am trying to get at the end of the day.
Yeah, the self-love piece. Yeah. Without needing to be perfect first, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's acceptance. And all of that.
Got it. Cool. And I just want to like retouch on that, just one for me, obviously, because I've had different conversations since then, and I want to make sure I'm not bleeding. I want to make sure I'm not like bleeding other people's like my own other sessions into this one by mistake. And then of course to have you you know, like revisit it yourself, and then to give 100%. The audience some context. But that being said, you know, how has that supported you already with, you know, where you are now, and what do you feel like is still missing between the productivity piece?
For me, I think now I am much more ready and much less fearful around working or caring what other people think in terms of the quality of my work. Not that I don't really care, but it's still there, but I can push through it. It's not like dragging me down. But now it's just like, okay, what do I do first? It's the overwhelming number of tasks that I have, and it's almost like trying to distill it down to the most efficient way. So then I can just be like, okay, these are the tasks I need to do. I would say this is level 1 then. It's like more practical. So then I can just take one step at a time and actually achieving it, instead of just me being stuck in like organization mode.
Got it. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that, because that's kind of what I was thinking too, but I wanted to make sure, again, it wasn't just my projection. Now, this is the trouble with the 3 levels of coaching, right? Some people are just practical, and that's more like consulting. Let me tell you what to do, or maybe I'll even just do it for you, right? Like step A through Z, whatever. And then there's the level 3 coaching, where it's like, again, just really deep and meta and about your being and existence. Each one is good and each one is bad in their own ways, right? An example that I use of this, and I think I may have shared this with you when we were talking again offline, is, you know, if a client comes to me and says, hey, I'm dealing with a headache, it would be ridiculous for me to be like, well, how are you showing up in the world that's having you have a headache? What's going on, and how can you be responsible for having a headache? Versus, you know, chances are people just want a level 1 coach that can say, hey, why don't you take an aspirin? You know, and And then once your head clears up, then maybe we can have a conversation around why your headaches keep happening, right? Like, but that's a different conversation. And so right now, like, it would be almost ridiculous for us to keep talking about, oh, why don't you feel like you deserve love? And where else are you trying to be perfect? And perhaps that conversation will come in again. But I think you and I can both understand right now, like, what actually is happening is there needs to be some practical things put into place, right? So that it's not just like, what can I think of the word for? So that it's not just hypothetical. Right? So that it's, and that's where the level 1 coaching can really serve somebody, you know. So being able to put it all together. That said, do you want to jump into a level 1 and we can kind of dance around there and figure out what the steps you need are?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool.
So I think it applies to a lot of people trying to build an online community, what to do first or what not to do. So Facebook, it's one thing. Facebook group is another thing. There's also Instagram. Now there's Clubhouse. There is Twitter, right? All these social media platforms. And then there's also building a website, and there's also podcasts and YouTube channel. So, and then there's also promotion and marketing, right? And then, so these doesn't even generate money. They're just a way to promote your content out there, right? But then without promoting your content, then there's no audience. And if there's audience, there's no way to market your product. So it's more like, okay, where do I focus that would be best for my alignment and my audience? First of all, in terms of marketing, how much is enough or not enough? Let's just start there.
Yeah. Okay. So how much is enough or not enough?
Right.
Yeah. One thing I noticed you didn't say was how much is too much. Right. When does it become too much? Because that almost sounds like what your issue might be. Like, there's too much. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to go. You know, there's Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse. So, and this is a thing that a lot of, I feel like, new entrepreneurs fall into, myself included, and I still do this a lot of the times. You know, needing to feel like you need to do everything and get it done right away. Right, you need to become like it's not even jack of all trades, but like king of all trades in one day. You know? And that's overwhelming, and then therefore we stop and we don't want to go on anymore and all of this crap, right? The first thing I'll ask you is, what are you ultimately trying to create?
Really a community that people can talk to each other. I'm really just the face to promote an idea, because my gift is that I'm really good at being vulnerable and sharing like the behind the scenes and the struggles. So in the community, if I can start first, it opens up the conversation, because the saving face, the shame, and all of that, it's such a block around our community. But I feel like if there's a representation of someone who's going through the same thing and feeling the same thing, then it's like, whoa, we're not alone in this. Let's just figure it out together. So the ultimate thing is really to have more people like engage in these type of conversations, be aware of it. And then there are a lot of inner work, like the skills that we need to work on in order to be more authentic. Like, for example, being able to set boundaries, right? Like with our parents, especially, right? Or in your relationship. Because we're all about saving face and shame, we don't speak up, right? Speaking your truth is the second thing. And being vulnerable is the third thing. It's just like all these different skill sets that are needed in order to really carve your own path, is what I want to eventually have the community to be able to do, because I really truly believe when you can really celebrate you for you and not care about other people thing. We do care about other people, but it just not so be held back by it, then we can truly live the best life we can. And when you're happy, it like amplifies. It just helps like the whole world heal. So that's kind of like my ultimate goal. But it's like, okay, right, that's the big picture. But like, let's reel back to the everyday task and how do I achieve that, right?
Got it. Yeah. And see, and now we want to, and I just want to kind of give a breakdown of this to give you some context around like where we want to start looking, right? You're clearly a very wide person.
Yeah.
You're a visionary. You see a world, and it makes sense. Unconventional Asian. You're the one who sees things that most people don't see, right? And that's kind of been your life, right? Like that's why you're unconventional. The thing with being visionaries is sometimes when we're why people, we sometimes don't know how to be how people, you know? And so we have all of these big visions and no idea on how to execute it, right? So then you, of course, you have a few different, then you have a few different things you could take on knowing just that, right? You can hire someone to support you, like, hey, you know what? I'm the visionary, but I want to hire you to do the operations. I want to hire you to teach me how to do the operations, whatever it is, right? Hire the how person.
Right.
Or you can start learning how to be the how person, right? The problem with, again, just kind of being the visionary, in a lot of ways, you're also the creative. And what we know about creatives and visionaries is we're very lateral thinking, meaning like you have an idea here and then they'll kind of remind you of here, but what about this one over here? What about this one over here? Right? And we kind of jump around. And then I think you can see them. And that's great because we get really creative and we see a bunch of stuff, right? And I'm a creative too. I'm a visionary person too. So that's kind of where my world is as well. But the problem is we don't build on top of them. So we build laterally, and we don't actually build up to actually build an empire, right? So that becomes a problem. And then not only is it a problem with, like there's too many things on our plate, but it's also, we start to lack identity because we identify with so many different things. And then also we have a hard time monetizing because we're jumping from different thing to different things, right? Does that sound like it relates to you?
Oh my God, 100%.
Yeah. So we're trying to jump from different things to different things. And so it's hard to build up one. So right now, what needs to happen, I like to say, is for the people who are thinking, and I'm gonna back up so everyone can kind of see like my hands move, right? But for the people who think like this, like very laterally, and their brains kind of go around, what we need to do is, instead of just forcing you to be like, stop, just go go straight up. We need to find a common thread between all the things that we're thinking about, right? What's the common thread? And so you're already pretty aware of your common thread. Your common thread is like being the voice or being the face for change, right? For to be unconventional. But actually, let me not put my words there for you. Like, let me not put my words in your mouth. You tell me what's the common thread between everything that you're doing.
See, like this is where it gets a little tricky too, because I'm such an experimenter as well. Like I like to try things. It's almost like I'm like the guinea pig for self-development. So I just love like seeing my own growth and then sharing those lessons with people. So, and then because I'm vulnerable, which is quite different in the Asian community, then I feel like, oh, if I share that, then people will be able to kind of hopefully get inspired. But in order for them to truly change, they need to be engaged, right? And so I guess that's the few levels that I'm looking at. So it's like me being the face, but then, okay, then they get inspired and they come into the community. And if I can offer a service or like a workshop or something that they can also engage in and work on, then that's where they make the changes for themselves. So I guess that's kind of how I'm like positioning it.
Got it. Yeah. So, and I don't know if I got the answer yet, but it sounds like you're kind of the guinea pig. You kind of want to test a lot of things out in the personal development area.
Yeah.
And you want to get them to a point where they can eventually like almost pay for it. Like you could provide a service, like a monetizable service, right? Yeah. So now the question is, because you have your vision and there's a common thread you kind of have already around helping people grow, right? I would imagine just if you were to bottom line it in one sentence, in what way do you want to help people grow? Or in one way, like in one sentence, how do you want to help people?
Oh, this is hard. This is really hard. This is where the scatterbrain is having difficulty. See, because I have like so many points underneath that. So it's like one sentence.
Yeah, one sentence. Yeah, one sentence.
I guess it's kind of like the tagline. It's like inspiring the Asian community to cultivate their skills to forge their own path.
Mhm. Okay. Can you say that like once again, just for my own memory?
Yeah. To inspire the Asian community to cultivate the skills to forge their own path.
Okay. Inspiring the Asian community to cultivate the skills to forge their own path. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that being said, now you know, and I want you to understand behind that question, that's a great question for lateral thinkers. Bottom line, bottom line, bottom line, in one sentence, because then it forces us to, instead of looking at all these things, we look
Right.
for the thread naturally, right? We naturally look for the common denominator. So that's a great question if you start like speaking to someone who's going off like and talking about a bunch of different things. So hopefully that helped you. Like it was hard, but it kind of helps you focus in on that, right? So now that you have that, the question is, and it might be a very basic question, right? What's the service you like? How do you want to actually provide that service? You know, how do you actually want to deliver the service?
I think the best way are workshops right now, because I really believe in practice. Like, because a lot of the courses that are out there, you can just talk, like, and do like an online course where they can just, have some questions and they answer and journal themselves. But then because I've done so many of them, like, and it's like, honestly, the best way is to literally engage with other people in the community trying to do the same thing. And then they can practice with each other. And that, to me, it's like so much more powerful. Because at the end of the day, yeah, it's about making money, but it's really about like my community learning the skill. Like, I truly believe that. It's not me just like, honestly, earning money is a byproduct. I still have to live, unfortunately. but really, it just like, really, how do I find the best way so that they can actually get the skill? So for me personally, practice is the best way. And so workshop would be like having that intimate setting where, okay, I'm going to teach you something. Now let's practice. It's what I'm envisioning.
Got it. So a workshop setting, it almost sounds like a workshop setting with the community too. So not just like, hey, I have this workshop, just come take it yourself. But it's almost like you actually build a community so the community can leave the workshop with the tools to keep sharpening them.
Yeah.
Got it. Cool. So that being said, tell me about like the ultimate, let's start with the end in mind, right? So you have a community, let's just say you have a community where you're hosting workshops. How often do you want to be hosting workshops?
Depends on how much work, I guess.
Well, just off the top of your head, how much would be ideal if you could control all of it? Yeah, if you could control it, how many workshops would you want to be hosting? Like once a week, like 5 times a week? I don't know. Just one massive one once a year.
Well, okay. So if I were to just start, I would say like maybe once a month. It's like really because we're smaller, and then eventually build up to when we have more people, then it will be like once a week, and then maybe then twice a week, and then eventually one massive one. You're right. That is my end vision. It's almost like a seminar where they have different workshops for different skill sets, and then we'll bring in like different experts that are good at that skill set to teach that one skill. So then it will be a wholesome experience, because it's not like setting boundaries one thing, then we have to like learn to be vulnerable, and then all these things, you can have all of them together, then you can eventually really get the end goal of being authentic and walk your own path.
Got it. Yeah. So I want to point out here too, really quickly, just for you. You notice how like I say start with the end in mind, right? Start with like I was saying, like what's the ultimate thing you want, and you kind of naturally started like, well, we can start here, and then you build up. Right. That's the thing with a lot of, and that's the thing that will get us stuck a lot of the times, right? We want to think backwards. We want to think from the ultimate goal. So I'm glad you eventually got to the ultimate goal, because then you'll realize maybe
but I just went the opposite way.
Yeah, because sometimes we do unnecessary things that we don't need to do, right? We do all these things, and then like a month later, we're like, oh, I totally didn't need to waste my time on that. Have you ever had that experience?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, like for example, for me, for a long time, I was trying to get my Instagram up and going, and then I realized I don't even like using Instagram. Like I don't even care, you know? And so I wasted a lot of time doing that. So that being said, we want to start with the end in mind. So the end in mind, you have so with the end in mind, you want to have like this ultimate like big seminar type thing where people come and they can take different courses in different areas, right? Tell me a little bit more about, like, be really detailed about that. How many days is this? You know, what kind of people are coming, and you know, when they leave, like, what are they saying when they leave?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There are two options. See, this is like why can't I just distill to one thing? But okay, two possible options. But one option is a retreat. So it would be like a week, like in Bali or something. That'll be great. Somewhere exotic and warm with like a pool, so it's fun. So then there would be every single day there would be maybe 2 workshops, and then you get like it's a small intimate group where they get to practice with each other and learn from each other, and just get to know each other and have meals together, all of that. We'll have like activities, yoga, meditation in between. And then, yeah, for 7 days. So by the end of it, they will walk away with all these tools that they actually practiced. And they can now take it out into the real life and do it for themselves. So yeah, that vision is very exciting to me. And then, but it's a smaller scale. The reason I say the second option is because that's the bigger scale. So it's kind of like a seminar. So a seminar, like have different speakers on stage that are good at certain things or experts, right? And then there would be the little workshops that people sign up for and they go to. So that would be maybe extra money. So if you know Lewis House, he does like the Summit of Greatness. He has a podcast called The School of Greatness, and I'm kind of like envisioning that model if I'm doing the seminar type style. But again, we require a lot more people when we do that. So 2 options.
Yeah, well, let's look at just one, because you could use the same tool that we're about to use and like for either one, right? But just which one right now excites you the most to even think about?
Actually, the retreat. That's a really good question because I thought it would be the seminar, but I was visualizing the retreat would be more exciting.
Okay, got it. So let's talk about the retreat, and don't get super crazy logical here. When do you want to do this by?
Oh gosh. Oh, maybe a year from now.
A year from now?
It's hard to say because maybe 2 years. Let's just say 2 years because of the travel restrictions.
Okay, yeah, but hey, let's do this again. Don't get too logical about it, right? Let's look at the 1 year. Let's look at the 1 year, because it could possibly be 2 years. We don't actually know, but that's not what matters. What matters is we want to start looking at the, you know, we want to start looking at it from a place of abundance rather than from a place of practicality and a place of scarcity. You know, and so that's where you want to create a lot of your dreams from. Not saying that it's always realistic, but we're not setting it to stone, right? You're not going to go out there and start selling stuff for next year. Like that's not what the point is right now.
Right.
So ideally, you would love to do this within a year. Okay. And so you want to do this within a year. Give me a month. Give me like an exact date, like June 8th or something like that. I don't know.
Sure. That's a good month. Because that's also my birthday month, so I kind of like that.
Okay, cool. So June 8th. Let's just say June 8th, right? Whatever. So if you wanted to do this by June 8th, what would need to happen by, let's just say, January 2022 in order for you to know that you're like setting yourself for the right path to get there?
I think I would have to grow my community more. Do I? I can just talk to myself right now because I feel like that retreat will have to be, yeah, like well, even though the retreat is not that big, but I feel like maybe it's a block that you let me know that I feel like there has to be enough exposure of this community for enough, just even 20 people to show up. Is this a scarcity mindset?
I mean, I don't know. You know, we don't have to dig too deep into it, right? But if you feel like, okay, I need to grow the community more, right? Like let's just accept it as it is, right? So grow the community more. What's your number? What's your number? How, like, what, 500 people in the community? Like, what?
I would say 1,000.
1,000. Okay. And I'm actually just writing this down in my own memory. Okay, cool. So what else needs to happen by January, 2022 for you to be like, I'm on the right track. We're going to do this retreat in June.
I would have to hold virtual workshops first.
Okay. How many?
I would say once a month until it happens. Well, does it have to be once a month? So I would say at least 10 to 12.
10 to 12?
It's more like practice. Yeah.
So
before it gets to the real thing.
So you would have had to,
actually.
Yeah. So by January, you would have had to have 10 or 12. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Which one of those numbers do you want to settle with? Let's get really specific. 10 or 12, which one?
12.
12, okay. So 12 workshops. So by January 2022, you're going to have a community of 1,000 people, and you would have hosted 12 virtual workshops by that time. And going. Got it. So then let's just backtrack a little bit. Let's just say September of this year. What needs to happen by September of this year for you to know that you're starting to head towards that community of 1,000 people and those 12 workshops? You know, how many people would you need in your community already? How many workshops would you need to have already?
Yeah. I would say I would have already 6 workshops by September.
Okay.
Yeah. And that the number, number is really hard for me because you can never predict that.
Yeah.
And that's a block for me because it's like, but yeah, 6 workshops, because that's at least something I can control. But the number of people in the community, that's like really hard for me to aim for. But if I have to put a number on it, I would say maybe 600.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And remember, we're not married to this, right? We're not married to this right now. This is more so just hypothetical planning. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So if by September you had 6 workshops out there, complete and done, 600 members in your community, right? What would have needed to happen by, let's say, May of this year? How many members? How many workshops? Also, are you being monetized for these workshops? What would have needed to happen?
Yeah, the workshops would be monetized for sure. I would have maybe 3 workshops by then.
Okay.
And I might try it out in person if it's doable, depending on the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah, like not only is it virtual, actually preferably in person, actually, all of them. We're just doing hypothetical anyways, right? Yeah, they would be in person if possible. But if not, then we'll default back to virtual.
Yeah, got it. So preferably in person, but if not, then, hypothetically speaking, if not, then virtual. Got 3 workshops by May. How many people in your community by that time?
450.
450? Okay. Got it. And then let's keep backtracking. Right now, we're almost in February. Let's just say it's February right now, right?
Right.
So May, let's just say by March then. March. How many of these workshops would you needed to have hosted by March, and how many people in your community in order for you to know that you're on the right track to get yourself set up for May?
I don't think I would be able to host any yet by March, but it would be the setup process. So
Okay.
it's like finding the right guest, knowing what topic to talk about, and just like understanding how the funnels work in terms of marketing for a workshop in general.
Yeah.
And just setting up a workshop, like what was the plan, like how does it look like, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by March, then it's got to be a series. So in order for you to be in March, to know that you're setting yourself up for the 3 workshops in May and 450 members, you need to have completed, like, knowing how to funnel workshops and whatnot, knowing exactly what kind of workshop you want to do,
Right.
Knowing who to connect with, and like learning and whatnot. Got it. So that being said, let's see. I'm just again writing this down for me.
Yeah.
Knowing how to funnel. How many members would you need in your community by that time? Let's just say March, in order to set you up for the 450 community members.
To be honest with you, I already have like 370.
Okay.
So maybe 400.
400. Okay. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. So knowing how to funnel, 400 members. No workshops yet, but knowing exactly what you want to do, like what workshop you want to run, how to run the workshop. Okay. 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 So between now and March, what do you need to do to start to get to know about that funnel and how to market workshops? And what do you need to do to get the extra 26 members? And what do you need to do to get to know how to confidently run a workshop so that you can start designing it?
I think first of all, I need to start asking the community what they need in terms of what kind of workshops works. Like, I have an idea, but yeah, just kind of doing that research. And then same with the funnels, same thing. I need to do research. And I had a really successful run on Clubhouse the other day. And it tapped into a whole new world of possibility. So I think hosting weekly Clubhouse conversations will really help kind of with the exposure of what Unconventional Asian is all about. And I think that will help with increasing the members in the community. Okay.
Got it. So Clubhouse conversations, asking your community what they need, and researching in a way.
Yeah. Right.
And then learning the funnel. Let's get a little more specific about learning the funnel. Like, what are you gonna, let's just say, buy a course? Are you gonna reach out to someone who already knows this stuff? What are you gonna do in order to learn?
Right. I actually do know someone. I just had a conversation with him yesterday, and he is learning how to do marketing, be a marketing coach, and he's offering services with people with their marketing campaign. And so I think I would go to him.
Okay, cool. So,
for him to help me. Yeah.
Connect with, what's his name?
Sen, I think. SENG.
SENG.
Shout out. If you're watching. Yeah.
Sing. Okay, cool. Got it. So there's going to be asking your community, and this is just to get very particular. And yes, a shout out to Sing as well. So yeah. So there's reaching out to your community to see what they need and to research what you want to deliver to them. There's connecting with Sing to learn more about the marketing side of things and to really get yourself well versed in that. and then also doing the weekly clubhouses.
Yeah. Yeah, this
Anything
is so much more clear now. Yes.
anything else in your head that you need to do before, in order to set yourself up for knowing what you need to do, in order to like be confident with running a workshop, in order to like have 400 members, anything else that you might need to do?
Okay, this is when my scatterbrain wants to be like, okay, what else do I have to do in terms of like putting my stuff on social media? I don't know. I feel like, do I need to increase the time that I spend time on Instagram? Not really, actually. Now that I think about it, I don't think it relates to it. Yeah, it just maybe more time in just the Facebook groups and actually engaging with the community and answering questions or asking questions and just being like curious with what everyone's thinking would be helpful.
Got it. Okay, cool. So let's just settle with these three then. Let's settle with these three things. Ask, like being more involved in your community, asking what they need, right? Researching like how you can help them better, learning more about the funnels or like the marketing aspect of things, and then doing your weekly clubhouse conversations. How does that sound to you? Did you even just do that between now and like March? Just to do those things?
It's doable for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the like feeling, sensation that's coming up for you?
Still a little scared, or like not scared, resistance.
Got it.
I guess there is fear behind it. It's like, are you sure, Clover? Is that what you want? Like, you know what I mean? Because I tend to have this thing where I always change my mind. So it's like, is that what you ultimately want? But I don't know until I try. So it's just like one little step at a time. And it's here I am trying to convince myself, like my inner voice is like, you can do this. And it's like, I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm just like going back and forth with myself.
Got it. Cool. So let's just chill with this for now, right? Rather than letting like your brain scatter and do all of that. So basically what we settled on is this is literally your to-do list for the whole month. That's your to-do list. You know, it's not to say like, stop doing your lives and stuff, but it's just to say this is what you actually have to do. Everything else is basically what you feel like you should be doing. It's more of like a fear of not enough yet, Because there's a big difference. How many days do you spend doing things that you don't actually feel like, you just feel like you need to do, but perhaps you don't actually need to, right? And we all do that all the time. A lot of us do that. So this is just the list of what you actually do need to complete. Like the only requirements, three things for the next month and a few days.
Right. That's awesome. This is providing a lot of clarity. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so there's a few reasons why this works, but before I explain that, to kind of give you the tool and anyone else who's listening, so do you have any questions around what you got to do now between,
pretty clear.
No? Okay.
No.
Yeah. And it's pretty simple, right? It's like, that's all I have to do, right? It's really simple. So the thing is, the reason why this tool works is because a lot of the times the problem with what we do is we sometimes think about where we are and then where we want to go, right? And we work in that order.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because we're stuck where we are, sometimes we don't have an elevation from it. We're stuck in the circumstances. We don't see it from a bird's eye view. And so we don't realize all the things that are there for us already, or all the things that we need to cut out, right? We only realize like we're just in the junk. So by looking into the future of what you want, you get to build backwards. You get to, you come from a place of, I ultimately have this vision and it's abundant. You automatically put yourself in an abundant mindset to be like, oh my gosh, if I have that, then all I would need by this time is that. And then all I would need by this time is that. And you start working backwards, right? To create it rather than what should I do? It's what do I need to do to get to that point? So that's a big reason why it helps. When we're looking at the scientific viewpoint of it, there's two things that the human brains do that work really well together to make this tool work. So our brains can't tell the difference between reality and what's made up in our head, right?
Right.
Like so like that's why you have people who are, they can't tell the difference between like a saber-tooth tiger and speaking on stage, like public speaking. Right? Now, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. Right? The thing with that is that our brains are it just does that. It like just has this ability, or it just can't tell the difference. We also have this part in our brain that is meant to be able to remember and recreate. Meaning that, like, for example, if our ancestors, if they were walking around in the woods and then they saw, like they heard something from the bushes, and then out of nowhere a saber-tooth tiger popped out, right? For the future, now their brains automatically remember, if you hear something in the bushes, like be cautious, right? You kind of remember this, and you kind of know how to do these things by then, right? Or once you learn something, your brain naturally is, oh, I know how to do that. So when you put these two things together, when you imagine, like I was telling you, get really specific. When do you want to do this by? How many people do you want there? How many days? What do you want them to leave saying? When you get really specific, this is the power of manifestation, actually, like scientifically looking at it. When people really get clear on it, your brain can't tell the difference. Your brain thinks that it's actually happening.
That's true. Yeah.
And because in your brain, it's happened before, you naturally start creating how you got it, how you created it. Yeah. Is that like, yeah, and you naturally start creating how you made it, even if you actually didn't do it yet. That's true. Yeah. So have you ever had a moment where, or maybe you have a friend who like has like a brilliant idea? You've never done it before. They haven't done it before, but they're like, oh, it's such a brilliant idea. All I need to do is that. And then that's all I got to do. And then before that, all I have to do is that for that. And then if I do that, and it all comes together. Right. And it's like, they've never actually done it before, but somehow they know that that's what needs to be done. That's just your brain being able to say, oh my gosh, like I've been able to do it before, so I can do it again.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
That's fascinating. Okay. Yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why this tool is so helpful. It's it's a mind hack. It's a psychological brain hack to almost hypnotize your brain in a way, to like convincing it that you've done it before, and so that you can actually just give yourself the answers you need logically, rather than being like, oh, I'm scared, but what if I need this? But what if I need that? Right? It's just logic at that point. So that's why this tool is so helpful. So for anyone else out there listening who is looking for a tool to create some of your goals, feel free to take it. Feel free to just take this. And I hope that really helps. Like, and it provides you clarity with, like, wow, like I didn't even need to do as much as I felt like I needed to do 30 minutes ago.
That's true. It's true.
And it was cool because when I asked you what's coming up for you, what are the sensations? The first thing you did, do you remember the first thing you did?
Resistance, I said.
No, the first thing you did was like, that's the first thing you did. Yeah, go back and check it out. It's kind of cool. You see these things. Okay. So even if logically you don't know, like
body language.
Yeah, your body can tell already. Like it's already in your body. There's a release. Like yeah, I'm a little scared still, but yeah, and everything shifts.
That's so interesting.
So that's that's a level 1 approach to coaching. That's a very practical level 1 way of like, hey, this is how you design your goals, and this is how you actually accomplish them. And you know what? Everything else that we created, as far as what's going to happen in May, what's going to happen in September, what's going to happen by next year January, scratch it, forget it. Because the truth is, you're not going to be chances are by March, you're not going to be exactly where right now you think you're going to be.
Right.
Right. And chances are, like we talked about, COVID restrictions might still be in place. We still might not be able to travel and whatnot. And the problem when people try to create very straight goals going forward, and this was my problem for a long time too, is we're like, if we can't even get to point B, or point B looks like something completely different than what we thought it should look like, then out of nowhere, it makes it that much harder to get to point C.
Got it.
So if in your head it was boom, 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 and instead after the first step you ended up over here, it makes it really hard to redirect yourself, and that takes a lot of energy rather than being like, oh, where am I now, and where do I simply need to just go and adjust.
Oh,
So
interesting. That's fascinating. Okay, this really answers my question, because why I have so much resistance earlier when you asked me what the end goal is, it's because it's like, oh, I'm looking at the current goal. It's like, oh, can I really get there? Like, I'm questioning it.
yeah,
So that's why it's almost like, let me just minimize that goal so that it will be easier now. But that's fascinating. So what I'm getting from this is the reason why you're doing this end goal exercise, so that it can get to you the first step that you can achieve right now in this moment, the smallest step, and then scratch the rest, because we don't technically know how we're going to go in life. That's just how it is, right? And so from there, maybe the next goalpost that we need to do the same exercise and just work backwards. So it's like almost like a month at a time, do this thing where we just keep adjusting and adjusting and adjusting. So wow, that's okay. There's just like an epiphany happening right here.
Yeah, it's super, like, let me give you an example of why it doesn't work to keep like very strict goals, right? I have a friend, and if you're watching this, buddy, I'm sorry, I'm throwing you under the bus, but I had a friend who was like really attracted to a girl, right? And he wanted to ask her like out on a date, and he was asking me about advice on how to do it, and I was like, okay, so what's your plan? And he goes, so I'm gonna go walk up to her and be like, hey. She's gonna say, hey, and I'm gonna be like, how are you doing? She's gonna be like, oh, I'm good. How are you doing? And then I'll be like, I'm good. I'm just gonna go hiking. Did you want to join us? And then she'll, if she says yes, then she'll come with us and we'll go hiking. And then, I'll like talk to my friend and have them leave us alone. And then eventually, when like they leave us alone, they'll give us an option to just talk, like an opportunity to just talk. And then from there, I can like ask her like, hey, do you want to have dinner sometimes? Right? It's this whole process. And literally all I said to him, and all I said to him was, okay, so what if you ask her how she's doing? She says good, and she doesn't ask you back.
The whole plan is gone.
And she was just like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd be like, and it doesn't, as you can see, it doesn't work when you plan it really, really, because it's never going to turn out exactly the way you want it to, right? It's never going to turn out exactly. So you have to learn how to dance in the moment and be like, now, what do I want to do in this moment from here? What's the next step? And, like, of course, keep the vision in mind. Like, for example, his thing was, you're going to strive for the date, like still go for the date. But just because she says, like, don't rely on her to say, how are you back to you, like perhaps if she doesn't say it, like learn how to dance in the moment and say, okay, so that's my goal actually. And, perhaps if she doesn't say it back, why don't I just ask the question? Why don't I just go up and invite in general, right? But you see, like, if he was stuck on his plan, it wouldn't work.
Oh, this is such a beautiful way to explain that, like that manifestation of having an intention, which is like the end goal. But you know how people always say, like, you surrender and you just like let it, whatever, in the process. This is a perfect combination of that. Also combining practicalities, like what is that one step at a time? But you almost like need that end goal in order to know that one step. So that's the only reason why. So now I got it. Because before I was just like, oh, then I have to be fixated on the different steps that I envision. But because I know life doesn't work out that way, and when it doesn't, then I beat myself up and then I get off track. So it's like, okay, just remembering that every single time you do that one step process or the angle process is really just to get you to that one step and then just change along the way. Amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like if you're driving somewhere, right? And like, let's just say you have a destination to get to somewhere. And then like there's like one of the roads is closed. You're not just gonna be like, oh my gosh, no, it's closed. You're gonna find a way around it. Like it's you're not gonna be like, oh, but that was point B, and now because I can't do point B, I can't do it. You're just gonna find a new point B. You're gonna find a new point C, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's the ability to be flexible like that that's gonna allow you to keep going. So yeah, that's beautiful in the way you mentioned it around the surrender.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I'm actually really good at like adapting, but and not so good at planning. And so I like that this is now the ability to combine both of them together. That like just kind of gave me this epiphany aha moment. Cool. That was awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. So that really quickly,
great.
Is that a good place to just put that coaching on a pin, on pause?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. It was
Okay.
excellent, and I'm sure like many people have taken away a lot from this session. I hope, and comments away as well. Like if you're watching the replay or anything like that, if there's anything that you got from this conversation that you're gonna bring forward in your own life. And because it's so interesting when you can see the process unfold live like that.
Mhm.
I've heard of your process, like going from having the end goal in mind and work backwards. I've heard that a million times, but when to actually see it like live like that, which is like, whoa, it's a completely different feeling. And now I'm integrating that practice, and I get it now. So that was such an amazing experience. So thank you so much too
Yeah.
for the coaching.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much again for having me and allowing me to coach you in person, and yeah, like be able to bring up some of the gunk that it's like, oh, but be able to do it anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where can the audience find you? Which is because you already just saw the magic here. How can people work with you? What are you offering? I'd
Hmm.
love to know.
Yeah, so how people can find me, you can always find me on my Facebook. I'm really active on there. I'm a huge fan of getting to know someone as a person first, and then from there, perhaps we can work together or whatever, right? But I'm a
Yeah.
huge human being first. So go ahead and connect with me on my Facebook. I don't know if I'm tagged down here already or not, but if not, you can find me at Tou Ger Lee. I'm the only one with that name. You can also find me on my website at tougerlee.com. So some of the offerings I have coming up. So for the whole year of 2021, which is how we connected, I'm offering one free coaching session every weekday. And so and they're risk-free completely. So if you want to get some coaching and you don't want to, and you're worried about scammy sales and you're worried about weird marketing or whatever, I promise that's not what this is. This is just simply to have me continue growing myself as a coach, while at the same time supporting people who have never experienced coaching or just need the support. And need the support, especially when it comes to coming back from 2020, or when it comes to accomplishing your dreams, but you're not even really sure what the first step is yet, right? So whatever it is that you're dealing with, feel free to reach out and just take me up on one of those free sessions. And I hope that you can vouch for, like, they're not sleazy at all. They're just kind of, hey, let me just serve you. Now, if you want to work with me directly, I have actually a group coaching program coming up. It's called Becoming. I actually just changed the name. It's called Becoming, and it's all about, it's to support ambitious people who are ready to stop doubting themselves and start owning their greatness so that they can create the lives that they want and they deserve. My problem with the coaching world is that it's kind of expensive. It's very expensive. And therefore, like, only the wealthy can afford it a lot of times, right? So, for example, my family grew up really poor, and like my parents, with their work ethics, having a coach, they would have like been able to do amazing things, but they couldn't afford a coach. So there's no way a coach would have invested in them. And so I created a program, the Becoming program, and it's actually designed for to be at an affordable rate and top quality training. And the beauty of that is that it's like, I believe in my training. I really do. I've spent close to $100,000 on my own training and development before, and thousands and thousands of hours. And I'm giving this away at like literally 20% of my normal rate. So it's a little scary for me, but I figure it's enough to still survive and be able to serve people at the same time. And so if you're looking for top quality coaching at an affordable rate with great payment plans where we can be flexible working around you and your situation, let me know, and I'm so happy to be able to serve you and work around your circumstances with you. Another thing that's great with it is it's a 6-month program, and not only do I coach you in the group, but I actually teach you. I give you the coaching tools. Like, I teach you the tools itself, and I walk you through using them, so that by the end of it, what I say to a lot of people is, you could fire me, because I want to be fired, because then I know I did my job for you, right? So I teach you the tools so that you can actually, if you wanted to, you could be a coach. But even if you don't want to, I think we could all agree these are just wonderful tools to have in life. So not only do you leave with top quality coaching, an affordable price, but you leave with with all the skills and tool sets that like I've acquired from years and thousands, hundreds, almost $100,000 and thousands of hours. And then on top of that, you get to create a really cool cohort. where let's just say 10 years from now, when you're stuck on something, somebody from your team, you could just hit them up and be like, hey, remember that tool we did? Let's just walk through that tool together. And you get that direct support from your friends. So it's so many things, and I know I'm kind of like probably overwhelming the listeners with how many features are in it, but ultimately what I want you to know is this is a program that's meant for, again, ambitious people who are ready to stop doubting themselves and start owning their greatness. And it's for people who believe that being heart first gets you the win.
Yes.
Who believe that by having these tools, you can become a better version of yourself so that you can help make a bigger impact in the world. So that's who this is for. So if you're interested in that, please reach out. A few other offerings, but I won't bore you with them. Just reach out and I'll just tell you all about them. So yes.
Great. Thank you so much. That was such a great idea with your program, because price can be a really big factor, like you said. And the fact that you're going to over deliver, which you always do in our free one-on-one earlier on the offline session and here. And as you already know, the quality of the coaching speaks for itself. So definitely hit up Tou, and then you guys can work together or not, or just, have a conversation. Just like you said, always humans first and heart first, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what all we're here to do, really, to build a community together and just on this earth, living as like this human existence. So yeah. All right. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. And again, we'll be back next Friday for more awesome guests as Unconventional Asians. So until next time, dare to be authentic. Bye now.
Bye.